Greetings, YouTube. Welcome back to the channel. Because I don't do Alliance War, I only cover it when it is a new and relevant, newsworthy item to other people. I have a lot of respect for people who still love Alliance War and my fellow YouTubers who upload crazy, impressive content about the top tiers of war and all those fights. And I think it's great content. I think it helps a lot of people. And obviously, if I attempted to do that, I would make a mockery of myself because not only do I hate Alliance War, but the skills would just be what the kids would say at best, mid. But Alliance War is still one of those game modes that Kabam hopes to be competitive and ultimately make something out of financially. So it said, Alliance War updates a message from the game team forward. We want to spend some time today talking about the current state and future of Alliance War. The recent unhappiness regarding the difficulty of the defensive tactic this season has spurred a lot of conversation amongst our players, and the development team has been listening. Thanks in part to feedback from many in the community, shout out to our content creators in particular, we identified a number of issues with the mode and got together to discuss them last week. Unfortunately, solutions to many of these issues are deeply rooted in the design of the mode itself and are not something we can fix quickly. And I think that's kind of the takeaway so far in 2024. Kabam knows that they have problems that are upsetting members of the community. They've heard on the forums, they've even heard on help tickets, and from their own content creators and developers. But it's all coding. And I know nothing about coding video games. Literally nothing. I barely know how to spell coding. That's how little I know about it. But what I do know is that you can't recode something in the game overnight. And if you try, you're probably going to get a bug. And we know that that leads to more bugs, and it becomes kind of like a bug domino sandwich. However, we can action on some of these issues immediately, which is what this post is about. Now, that is a pretty big deal. Kabam usually likes to say, well, take the input into consideration and look out for the next patch notes. But when they say immediately, I'm just not used to reading that word on the forums, period, which is kind of intriguing. So let's keep reading, shall we? Before we get into the exact changes to the potion economy, we want to remind you all that we still have a change coming to modify health potions across the game to scale with boosts, and are hoping to have this ready for the launch in March. So, takeaway number one, March is kind of the date that Kabam wants you to circle for Alliance War improvements. This would see an effective increase of up to 55% in how much health all potions recover when boosted. That effectively upgrades the potency of all Alliance War potions in competitive alliances by a full level. Additionally, we'll make Tier 5 potions available for purchase in the Loyalty Store during Season 47, likely in early February. We plan this to go live with the release of the Potion Boost update, but we feel it's best to get this change to you sooner rather than later. I think that's honestly pretty awesome, and kudos to them for making that decision. Next, we're making a quality of life improvement to how potions in the Loyalty Store are purchased. Currently, each level of potion must be bought one by one, with an escalating cost and a daily refresh. This means that a player who wants to buy 7 war potions each week at the lowest possible price has to check in with the store every day. We will instead have an Alliance potions refresh weekly, and the first 7 potions are all of the same low price within that week. The overall price will be the same, but it will be much easier to get full benefit from the lowest price point and much cheaper to buy multiple potions above that point quickly. Again, assuming that is correct, I think that is a win. But let's now talk about deaths in Alliance War, since we've talked about deaths in Necropolis all week on this channel. Given that deaths are the main determiner of who wins in a high-tier war, having a certain controlled number of deaths happen is important. If a war has no deaths or an equal number of deaths, then tiebreakers determine who wins, which is very unsatisfying. Few or no death wars also make playing the mode unnecessarily stressful. Or, counter-argument, it's one of the reasons why people like it. Not me, but from the people I've heard in the past. No one wants to be the one who makes a small mistake, dies, and single-handedly causes the war to be lost. But that's also why people play Alliance War. They want that pressure. On the other hand, very high death wars are also unfun and resource-intensive for obvious reasons. In the past year, and especially in high-tier wars, we've been trending too close to the too few deaths side of the spectrum. Season 46 has successfully introduced a healthier amount of deaths in a Tier 1 war, and we're happy with how that's sitting now that top alliances have come to better understand and counter the tactic However, alliances in Tier 2 and below are dying more than we would like because Tier 1 and Tier 2 play on the same map with the same nodes. As an interim measure, we will be tuning down both versions of the tactic by decreasing the potency and duration of the daunted passives. Kabam found out that if you make things hard for the best players in the game, then the people who are moderately good are going to suffer even more. I don't know what I'm going to title this video right now, but I feel like that's a pretty big statement. That whole, they screwed around and found out for a G-rated version of that meme, it's kind of like what happened to Kabam. They messed with the mode a little bit and then found out. Looking a little farther in the future, the largest change we plan to make is to create a new map for Tier 1. Alliance War has reached a point where it isn't fair to either Tier 1 or Tier 2 to have them play by the same set of rules, and so we're splitting up the maps they play on so the nodes and tactics can be tuned independently. The thing that worries me about that is that, let's say you get really good at a tier map and then you move up and then you have to do an entire new amount of learning and there's a huge learning curve to it. Is that going to actually make the player not want to move up because they're happy with their success? It almost feels like you're punishing them. But at the same time, I get that you want something to be more challenging for one tier at the top than for the middle tier. To reiterate, we feel the current 2.0, Crush 2.0 tactic landed where we wanted to in Tier 1, so expect the next tactic for that level to feel similar, but things will be easier for Tier 2 and for everyone on the Challenger map. We don't have any planned node changes for this new Tier 1 map yet, but you can expect those in the future. Another change coming to Season 48 is improved access to the 7-star Loyalty Crystal. The Loyalty Store was never intended to directly compete with Season rewards, but rather to supplement them for less competitive alliances. Having a 7-star crystal with exclusive champions that is only available in the Loyalty Store creates a conflict of interest for our players who have to choose between fighting for better Season rewards, which often involves investing loyalty in potions and boosters, saving their loyalty for the 7-star crystal. We don't want you to have to make that choice, so starting in Season 48, we will be introducing the 7-star loyalty shards and adding them to Season rewards, which I think is awesome. So that our summoners who place high on the leaderboards will also have access to that exclusive pool, even if they never afford to stockpile loyalty for it. Some details still need to be worked out here, including if and how many champions will be added to the limited pool to keep it appealing, but our Masters and Platinum players should look forward to opening these exciting crystals more often in the near future. Minor note, we're also hoping to have loyalty skirmish rewards fixed by Season 48. And then lastly, we want to reiterate that these changes here are far from the last work we'll do in Alliance Wars. We're committing to spending time this year to re-examine the design of the mode in the hopes of making it better than ever. We look forward to sharing more when we can. We're excited about some of these early ideas, and we think you will be too. Very interesting post. I think when I interviewed Kabam Broccoli, now over a year ago, crazy to say that, he said the problem with making a champion nerfed is that if you nerf one person's kit, it might affect multiple champions, especially if they have like mainly a specific utility. I think the same thing is true with when you try to make something more difficult, but you don't make it tier-based. You are just hurting the people that are trying to grow in the middle or even the upper middle of the community. I think it's a lot of info to process, and that's why this video is kind of longer than normal. But at the same time, I think Kabam is not happy with the amount of deaths in Alliance War for so many people who are struggling to feel motivated. Because if you die a bunch in Alliance War and then you get on a losing streak in Battlegrounds, it literally affects your mental health. And imagine if you're that person that isn't doing well in Battlegrounds and you cost your alliance the war because you died too much. How is that going to be something that possibly makes you thankful to be playing a game? It's just not. It's not healthy at all. So that's my feedback for this video. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.